So welcome to your second semester success session about kind of planning on getting registered for your final year. It's an exciting, this is one of my favorite success sessions that we do, is kind of talking to you guys that are wrapping up your 12th grade year and getting ready to go into your final year, and just all the exciting stuff you'll be doing in the next year. As I mentioned, this is going to be recorded, so some people may be watching this as a recording. And thank you either way for either being here live or going back and getting the information. As you can see from the email, we are making these required. They weren't really required for you last year. It was just something that we gave it, and we expected people to come. But unless you say it's recorded, there's a lot of people that won't do this. And so that's something that we have been seeing a lot of, all of us in the office, of people in their final year or wrapping up or even have graduated and are coming back to us with questions. That the questions they have are things that we talk about in these success sessions and things that we're teaching you. So as I said in the email, we're here to give you the information. We're here to help you plan your degree and your transfer stuff. And there's SE4 people, but it is up to you. Your education is your responsibility ultimately. So thank you all for being here, and just keep rolling and coming to these as we have more next year. So the very first thing, after I've just kind of had that little rant over, is Dr. O'Brien from SE4. She is an English instructor, and she's the chair of the humanities department. She's also become certified to teach mindfulness classes. So this was, I joked in the last one, I feel like you hear a lot of like my journey in mental health or mindfulness or yoga journey, like when we're talking about those things that are about like centering ourselves, is like we talk about our journey with that. So can't think of another word for it, but her journey started a few years ago as she was just completely overwhelmed, overworked, and just overloaded and kind of just overstimulated. So that's when she realized, I need to do something to kind of center myself, learn how to slow down, learn how to take a breath instead of just go at 110, thinking of how to work smarter. That's a big part of mindfulness. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you're having mental health challenges, if you're experiencing anxiety, if you're experiencing test anxiety, mindfulness tools can be really helpful for that. And so she's offering a class, which I will send the flyer for. Actually, I can pop over to that. I forgot to pull it up. I'll be sending this in the email follow-up. But she has this flyer, and then I'll send you this link as well. But she's trained through Duke University, and a bunch of colleges have partnered. Delta College, Saginaw Valley, Wayne State, MSU, they all offer this mindfulness program, and it's all free. And so she's going to be doing these workshops once a week starting in April, and I'll send you this. She was trying to do one earlier this semester, and literally not one person replied when Mr. Wee sent an email about it. So I kind of said that maybe everybody's just killing it in the mental health department, but I know that there's people that are struggling and probably could benefit from this. And I know personally I could. So I'd be happy to join if anybody else wants to do this. You can do these dates where she has this next workshop set up, but if those dates don't work, or you can't do it right now, or you're kind of like, I don't think I could do that once a week for a month, reach out to Dr. O'Brien, and she may be able to give you some other options, even if it's just access to the app. Like she just said, just reach out and ask her for help. So I will be sending this flyer, and you can always ask us for if you have questions about that as well. So taking this moment of Zen, and then now we're going to be like, we're taking control of the plan. So we're planning, doing all these things, and planning ahead really does help us be more mindful and present in what we're doing, because you can get the plan ahead or planned out so that we're not stressing ourselves all the time, basically. So these old presentations are from the days of Mr. Spencer, and I kept a lot of this like corny dad joke stuff in there because it always made me laugh, and I thought maybe it would for you too. Who doesn't love two dogs walking each other? So today we're going to talk about some news and updates, and one of the biggest ones is that SC4 is making changes to their math course numbers. So I'll explain that in detail. We'll do kind of our regular refresh about registration and what to consider when you are registering. Registration opens April 17th, which is 1 month from when we first did this presentation last Friday. So it's actually a little less than a month now. How to choose wisely for your courses. And then we'll talk about getting ready for next steps once you're done with Blue Water Middle College and SC4 and looking at future colleges, where you might apply, and looking at what can transfer so that you're really increasing your success there and making sure that everything you do for the next year can work towards finishing up your degree here, and then also maybe applying towards your bachelor's degree at wherever your next step is. We'll talk a little bit, just a brief preview of how you will navigate the college application process and things that you can start doing between now and fall, when that will really ramp up and be a lot more busy, I guess. And we'll talk about, should you retake the SAT? And I always say definitely you should. And we'll talk about why and how. Excuse me, I'm getting choked up already. So news and updates. One of the biggest things is that this is kind of the last time we'll have you all in one place. So just talking about textbook return. So we can start taking books back, or SC4 Bookstore can start accepting returns April 24th. So that is the week before finals week. Finals are the week of May 1st. So May 1st through May 5th is the last week of the semester. The final deadline for returning your books is Monday, May 8th. That's the Monday after exam week. If you need your books to study for your finals or to finish up final projects, papers, whatever you have going on, don't return those books until you don't need them anymore. So, oh my gosh, I lost my spot. But if you know you're done with them, or whenever you finish your last final, that's a great time to return your books to the bookstore. You would take those to the SC4 Bookstore, which is next door to our office. There is a late fee if you don't get them in by May 8th. And if they're not in by May 8th and it's a course or it's a book that they need for somebody else, like you've rented it, you could be on the hook for actually the full cost of the book if they end up having to order a new one because you returned it late. So that $25 fee could turn into hundreds of dollars if you don't get that in on time. So make sure you do that by May 8th at the latest, but ideally drop it off after your last exam or the last time you'll be on campus for the semester. And then it's a nice relief to be done with your final, drop your books off, and then you're kind of done with SC4 stuff until August. Still checking your email over the summer, of course. So we are in those final months before your high school graduations. So you are still able to participate in commencements at the partner high schools as long as you have all of your graduation requirements done this semester. You should already know your status with the requirements, but ask Mrs. Barr if you're not sure. And if there's anything that you know that you need for a high school requirement and it's not going well, you should reach out to Mrs. Barr right now so that she can help you figure out a backup plan in case you don't end up passing that. That could be either at the high school or the college. If you're struggling in any class, reach out to Mrs. Barr just to make sure that that's not something you do need. But if you are sure you need it, you should definitely ask now. Every year, there's a handful of people that end up failing or withdrawing from something that they needed for a graduation requirement, and then having to scramble to do a credit recovery class, basically in a 3-week turnaround. So try not to have that be you. But if you have any questions, you can ask either Mrs. Barr or me about that. We are going into your final year. The consequences of being on academic warning could be a really big deal. Is that anytime a student at SC4 or any college dips below a 2.0 GPA, then they're placed on academic warning, and you just have the following semester to fix it. So If you end up with a GPA below a 2 after this semester, you'd be on warning for the fall. If you get that above a 2 point, you're fine. You carry on, just keep trying to improve your GPA. If you do not get it above the 2.0, then you would end up being suspended for the following semester, which would be winter semester, which is your last semester with SC or with middle college, your last semester paid for, and it would be a real awful consequence to have to deal with. So just if you think you're in danger of that, or if things are not going well right now, reach out and ask for help. So the main thing is we're talking about preparing for fall registration, but which opens Monday, April 17th. Again, that's always the Sunday night at midnight. So really midnight, the night of the 16th. There's a lot to consider every semester. These are the same factors to think about, is basically what do you need for your degree? Do you need prerequisites for later things? For example, if you know you need English 101 and 102, you need to do 101 in the fall in order to do them both next year. Looking at classes that will transfer to other schools, and then one final math related course for your high school requirements that we'll talk in more detail about. But first is basically all this new information about the SC4 math course changes. So to make a long story as short as possible, SC4 and actually every college in Michigan is currently going through this, where they are changing the course numbers for all of their math courses. And that for SC4 is effective this coming fall, which means it will impact your registration for fall. The actual courses and the names aren't changing. It's just the course numbers. There's a couple new courses available that are going to be available with support, and it'll have basically time built into the schedule where you are going to be working on old skills to kind of refresh your memory or to help you learn it for the first time if it's something that never stuck the first time, to help you in the new class that you're in. I'll get into more detail on those. We have been assured we know previous courses. So if you've already taken math, if you took Math 104 to finish for your arts degree, that still counts. All the previous course numbers will still count towards the associate degrees. So you don't have to worry about having to take a new one. If you are done with your math requirement for your degree, then you're good. But if you're not, then we'll talk about kind of what you should do. As far as the placement, the same rules apply. You can place into math and English classes with your AccuPlacer by taking the AccuPlacer test and seeing where you place. You can use your SAT scores for placement. And now that you are finishing 12th grade, you can actually use your high school transcript depending on how that has gone. If you need to use your high school transcript, it has to be that your overall high school and SC4 GPAs are both at a 3.0 or above. And then the final math class that you're using to place would have to be a B or higher. So in both semesters. So if you, for example, took pre-calculus this year at your high school, you would need a B in both semesters, and then you would be able to place into the next step, which would be Calculus 1. So that's a great option to not have to take the AccuPlacer, but my advice is always still to take the AccuPlacer. So if you're unsure or if you're nervous about math in general, I always recommend to take the AccuPlacer and then start wherever it recommends. If that means you need 2 classes to get to your end result, that's okay, because it's going to give you that foundation so that maybe you're taking 2 classes instead of having to take the same class twice, right? Because you're going to get the information and get more support. Instructors for the last few years have been a lot looser with giving overrides into math classes if students weren't placed into it. For a variety of reasons, they've been allowing that. They're kind of being directed not to do that anymore and direct you to take the AccuPlacer. So I'll go over to the testing link in just a second. If you do decide to use your high school transcript for placement, you can email me now to make sure that that's an option that works for you. So you would say, I am thinking about taking Math 113. I got B's in my pre-calc and I just want to retake 113 pre-calc, or that's usually what I would recommend a lot of times. So email me now if you have questions about what math class you should take, and then if you meet the qualifications, so I can look at your transcript and say, yup, that's going to work. Once we get closer to registration, so registration opens April 17th, all of the course sections are viewable the week before that. So the week of April 10th, we'll be able to see exactly what classes and times and instructors are being offered. So when it gets closer and we can see that week, you would need to send me an email and say, Ms. Weimer, I want to take Math 113 section 3, and I need to use my high school transcript to place into that. And then I will send that to SE4 and they'll do the paperwork for us. So you wouldn't be allowed, they can't just set it up so that you can just register for that on your own. That's why that's something we would need to do kind of behind the scenes. You should still be ready to register everything else the night that it opens or the next day or whenever you do your registration. So still register all of your other classes, and then we'll get your math class added as soon as you send that to me, and I send it to SE4 and they get it all official. So that's the process for that. But again, I really do recommend just taking the AccuPlacer. It's free for the first attempt, and it's going to give you a good idea of where you are placed. We've also seen through the years that people might do great in their high school math class and still struggle. Not everybody is getting the same instruction and content and level of rigor and challenge that the SE4 classes are offering. So the AccuPlacer is really going to give you the most accurate picture of what math you're ready for. The SE4 testing page is there. I'll be including that in the links that I send you, or the follow-up to this, which I'll be sending tomorrow. This page has information just about how to schedule the test. And then when you click down here at the bottom, you click on AccuPlacer and it talks you through, it gives you like some resources for how to study for that. SE4 recommends that you use Khan Academy to study for the AccuPlacer math. And we also have a page that, oops, not enrollment, students AccuPlacer. This will also be included. We have some links to that as well. And I can send you some information if you want some information on the Khan Academy and how to use that to study. Okay, so from here, basically, if you are planning, if you already knew which math class you wanted to take and you're currently placed into that course, or you take the AccuPlacer in the next few weeks and you place into that course, all you're going to do is just register the new course number. So Math 104 is now known as Math 1 or 1100. 113 is now Math 1130. Math 120 is now Math 1120. So I'll show you one of the things that we'll be sending to you is this handy chart that SE4 created and I've kind of adapted for us, is to show the old course number over here on the left, the name of the course, and now the new number. So that's that Math 104 is 1100. And I'm going to fumble through these numbers. Probably I'll still try to be wrapping my head around it by the time you guys are done, I bet. But 113 is now 1130, 1120, or 120 is now 1120. Those are the three classes that will finish the arts degree for you. So just this is the updated math pathway chart. So if you are taking the Associate of Arts, you can take the equivalent of 104, 113, 120 or higher. And so this shows kind of the different paths to that with the end result. If you're doing the Associate of Science, it's only statistics or pre-calc that can count. Math 104 does not complete the math for the science degree, just the arts degree. If you end up in a position where you need to do kind of the backup plan, which is the Associate in General Education, there is an additional course that can work for that I'll explain in a second. But going into this final year, there's very few people that should be looking at the general education degree. The arts and the science are the 2 degrees that will actually finish the MTA for you. And so if you're planning to go on to a 4-year school, you should be doing the arts or science. And there's enough time. You have a whole year ahead of you. There's enough time usually to finish what's left for the requirements, unless things have gone really, really bad. And then you and I, or you and Mr. Stewart have probably already talked about this. But if you have questions about which math you should do or can do, let us know, and one of us can help you with that. The other things you'll notice are these new courses. So the Foundations of Math with Support is like Math 104 with support, and that's Math 1101. These are going to transfer the same. So 1100 Foundations of Math or 1101 Foundations of Math with Support are expected, and we have been told will transfer the same. They also still count for the MTA. So this new one, Math 1101, counts for MTA just like 1100 does. The other one, Intermediate Algebra with Support, Math 1011, this does not count for MTA because neither did the original one, Intermediate Algebra. This is basically a class to take before you take Math 120. Or sometimes people will take, to go back to the placement chart, if you want to take pre-calc in the end, you can take what used to be Math 112, which is combining intermediate algebra and trigonometry, or you can break it apart. So you can take the intermediate algebra and then trigonometry and then pre-calc. So this could be a good path if you want, if you know you need to get to pre-calc, but you need a little bit more help. The other one that's with support is the statistics. So I know that temptation is going to be there to just, you can just take Math 1121 and that could be the only math that you take. So that is an option. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of these with support classes in just a second. But basically that would be the path, that could be a path for it. There's not a with support for other classes like pre-calc. They expect do the support classes earlier. And then if you need pre-calc into higher level calculus 1, 2, and or 3, then they know that you need more support back here with Math 110 or Math 112. So that's kind of the basics of it. The degrees have been updated with the new math requirements or the new math numbers on the requirement, but then it also lists, you know, what it formerly it was Math 113 or 120 or higher. Just a refresher that completing either the science or the arts degree also completes the Michigan Transfer Agreement. And that is also updated with the new math numbers and then an additional English option that I'll talk about in a second. So all these things are updated, and it's really just a matter of taking whatever you were planning to take before just as the new course number. That's the easiest way to get through that. So that's that. The next thing are these new courses with support. So that's the ones that I just pointed out. Anything that ends in a 1 is a with support class. All of these math classes, pretty much all of the math classes are 4-credit classes. So it gives you 4 credits towards your total of 60 or 62 or 63, whatever it is, depending on what degree you're pursuing. These courses, the new ones, are still going to be 4 credits towards your total, but they are going to be 6 contact hours. So that affects a couple of things. First, it affects billing because SE4 bills by the contact hour. That's not something you need to concern yourself, but it is something that will impact Blue Water Middle College. On the end, the thing that will affect you is the contact hours means the hours of class time that you are in class per week. So if you are doing one of these courses, you'll be there 6 hours a week. So instead of previously you'd be there 4 hours a week, now it's 6. They're saying the breakdown of that is going to be the 4 hours a week will be just like you're doing the intro to statistics, the new material, learning about statistics. The other 2 hours are going to be your with support time. So that's where you're going to be with your instructor, getting support, learning old skills from prior classes that you need for this current new stuff. Like they'll talk about a certain skill or content in the statistics. And then in that lab time where you're doing the whiz support, they'll go back to stuff from algebra or pre-algebra, or maybe even some geometry and trig stuff. They'll go back and fill those skills in if you're lacking that. So that is a wonderful thing. You're actually with your instructor. So instead of having to seek out tutoring and really find like a tutor that works for you or a time that works for you, it's built right into your schedule. So that's a huge plus to it. The downside is that it's just challenging to fit 6 hours per week versus 4 into your weekly schedule. As I mentioned, they're expected to transfer the same as their matching standalone class. And these are great if you're not able to place into the regular standalone class. This is another thing I wanted. I'll be sending this, the placement charts. I wish I had. Let's see. So these placement charts have been updated, and I do want to just show you so you can kind of see where you're placing and how this will work. So these have been updated just recently, and we'll be sending these out as well and posting them on our website. But the idea for the math is that the structure is the same. When you take the math AccuPlacer, you're starting out taking questions in this like quantitative reasoning, algebra, statistics section. And if that doesn't go well, like if you're not getting those right, it drops you back down to arithmetic. So this is how you end up placing into lower level classes. Basically, if you don't do well on those first questions, then it drops you down to arithmetic. If you do well and you're getting a lot of these right, it bumps you up to the next test level, which is advanced algebra and functions. And this is how you end up placing directly into introduction to statistics or pre-calc, or sometimes directly right into Calc 1. Wherever you place, I do recommend kind of just taking that advice. There is an opportunity or a possibility that when you take this, you place into this Math 75. So that used to be a course. It's called a developmental ed course, or it was. We can't pay for those because this didn't give you course credit on your transcript. So that's why very few of our students have taken these through the years, because they had to pay for them themselves. If you place into one of these, it says Math 75 recommended. So that means it's not required, but I do really strongly recommend that you do the stuff that they give you. It's basically a non-credit module course that you would do at your own pace, on your own time. It's something that you could do over the summer and then be ready to take the next step in the fall. Now, because it's recommended, you don't necessarily have to. You could place yourself right into any of these courses. Math 1011, 1101, or 1121 are these courses with support. Math 1101 and Math 1121, again, those can finish the math requirement for the Associate of Arts. 1121 can finish the requirement for the Associate of Science. So you could do that one thing and it finishes the degree, but just know it's going to take more time in your schedule. So I think I've kind of really laid that in there. But if you have questions, if you're considering taking one of these courses with support, I really recommend that you reach out to me. If any of these, if you're trying to decide what English and math class is right for you, email me. I might be able to just answer you right over email, or I might say, you know what, why don't you come in and we'll have a meeting and talk about it in more detail. Just while we're on that note, my inbox is completely overloaded. We've been in meetings. I've been prepping for these sessions. Like there's just a ton of stuff going on, and a ton of people are reaching out to set up these meetings and ask questions right now. So it's slow, but I will be getting back to you as quickly as I can. And definitely I'll have the answers to you in time for registration, but you may have to pack your patience a little bit. The other new course that they've added, Math 1000, is Math for Everyday Life. This is a 4-credit course, but 5 contact hours. So 5 hours a week you're in class. This is new and it has no prerequisites, but it really doesn't count for a whole lot. It will not count towards the MTA. nor the arts or science degrees, and it will not transfer. It's basically just a class you can take as a last resort for the general education degree, or if you've already completed your math requirement for the associate degree, this could be a good one to complete your final year math requirement. It doesn't count towards any degrees other than gen ed though. So just keep that in mind, but it could be a good option. And I wish it would count for more stuff because it's actually probably going to be very relevant to your real life. I'm going to kind of pop ahead. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the final year math requirement when we're talking about the registration stuff, but basically everyone will need some sort of math course this year. Ideally, you're just going to take the math that's going to finish your degree, but if you're already done with that, that's an option. All of these new courses will have either in-person or online options available. I always recommend for you to take math courses in person, especially if you are considering taking one of the with support classes, or if math is your challenge subject or not your strength. If you are worried about math, you should never take it online. I know sometimes people think, oh, well, I'll be able to work on it on my own time. And sure, that's maybe a little bit true, but you do not have the support that you need in an instructor if you are taking an online class. That's just the reality. Not all of them answer very quickly. Not all of them can teach math online. Like it's just a tough thing to do online. So if you are struggling with math or you're worried about just getting it done, definitely take it in person. But often we see when students come in and they need to withdraw from a math class, it's usually an online section. So just word of warning, and I would say this about any class that is your challenge. So I think there actually is a very similar slide later on. Same applies to if English is your challenge subject or something that you're worried about, you should not be taking it online. You should take it in person. All of these new courses are subject to this rule that we haven't really talked about much, if at all, the 3 attempts rule. It applies to very few people, but basically every college class, you're only allowed to take that particular class 3 times. So if, let's say you took Psychology 180 your 11th grade year and it didn't go well and you withdrew, and now you're taking it for a second time and you end up maybe not passing or withdrawing again, you are not allowed to take a class a 3rd time until you have approval from SC4. So if you end up having this go on with a math course, the old course numbers apply towards your attempts. So if you took Math 104 and it didn't go well, you can only take it once more before you would need approval to take it a 3rd time. And then that's it. Once you take it the 3rd time, you're not allowed to take it again. So whatever your highest grade is what you're stuck with, basically. Transferability, again, should not be affected, but it may take some time for the online resources to be updated. So when we're looking at transfer guides to the 4-year schools, or we're looking at the Michigan Transfer Network, those things might not be updated, really they might not even be updated this whole year. But we can know that if it told you that you could take Math 113 and it would apply to that bachelor's degree, Math 1130 is going to work for it just the same. It's just, we're not going to officially know that until that's all updated. And so you guys are kind of going to be the class where you're going to have to just trust the system. But SC4 is not the first or only college to be doing this. Even the 4-year schools are going to have to rework their course numbers based on this new rule that's being implemented. And so they're going to be expecting these changes from everyone. Every college in Michigan's making these changes. The last thing that is affected in a positive way is that the science courses will be eliminating any prerequisites that were English 75 or Math 75 or Math 82. So there are some classes that had that prerequisite. Bio 271 is a good example where you had to either take those classes or place higher. Those prerequisites have been eliminated, but there are still some math prerequisites for higher level science classes. Like you have to have had certain math classes depending on some chemistry classes, or there's math prerequisites for physics classes. So those are still there and in place, but it's just these lower prereqs have been eliminated. They also, in this change, are adding a new English option. So English 100 is English Composition 1 with basic writing skills. So it's basically English 101 with support. It's going to work very similarly to those other with support classes in the math classes. English 100 will be a 3-credit class, just like English 101 is. So it'll count for 3 credits on your transcript, but it's going to be 6 contact hours. So your class schedule will be 6 hours a week. So again, the pros and cons of that are that you have the support, but you also have to build that time into your week. It's going to transfer just the same as English 101 and will count for MTA and the arts and science degrees. And it's basically interchangeable with English 101. So you would take 100 or 101. You wouldn't take both. And then you would take English 102. Okay. So you wouldn't take 100, then 101, then 102. You do 100 or 101, then 102. And those are all updated on the sheets as well. So again, if you have any questions, email me, take a picture of this, or I'll have the email reminder that I just sent you. Hopefully everybody has my email at this point, but email me. Sometimes I might be able to answer right away. If you have a question, ask it in the email. Sometimes I get emails that are like, I have a question for you. Can we talk? And so I would advise you to include the question in the email, and I might say, oh, I can answer that really quickly. That's an easy one. Or I might say, yeah, that's a conversation we need to have. Okay, but if you can get me more information, I might be able to get you a quicker answer. Okay, back to the regularly scheduled programming. This is where we would have started talking about registration stuff. So don't be that student. So when we're talking about courses needed for your degree, this is what we're talking about, where these success sessions are really important to reiterate stuff that we have already talked about several times. But every year we have students that end up short a couple credits or a couple classes and seem to be completely surprised and upset about it. And sometimes they're in tears and upset with themselves, is where the blame does fall, because we've given you the information. And then sometimes I know that sometimes when we're upset, we want to lash out at other people. And so we've had people be very upset as if it's my fault that they're not finishing on time. So this is why it's super important for you to take accountability and know what you need to do. If you need a prerequisite, all those things are things you need to start making sure you know what's left for your degree and what you need to do to take those. There are all these people to help. So I always have worded it that these success sessions at orientation and in the seminar class is where we taught you all of this stuff. We gave you these tools, but then we are here to help you with it as well. But we should always double check everything with SE4 advisors. Just by the nature of me being the college and career advisor, I'm mainly the one that's working with everybody to make sure you're finishing your degree. And there's however many different degrees that everybody's working on, and then checking how things are going to transfer. That's a lot of details to get right. So just the nature of statistics is that mistakes are going to happen. You and I might make a mistake when we're looking at it together, or I might make a mistake when I'm sending you the information. That's why I always say we can make the plan, but double check it with SE4 advisors, just so we have another set of eyes on it at the very least. We'll talk about the transfer stuff in a second, but reaching out to advisors at the four-year schools are also how we can triple check. So there's all these videos and planning worksheets on the website, or there will be very soon. I'm going to go over to our website and point out a couple of things. So when you just go to bluewatermiddlecollege.org, this is our homepage. If you haven't explored this in a while, you should. It's been updated, which is wonderful. It looks great. But when it was updated, all of these videos that I had on here that explained all this stuff in such great detail, and I was very happy with, they all disappeared. And we can't, I think Mr. Spencer has the actual like hard versions of those. So they're gone. So this morning, I made a new video for this page. We'll be updating that there. That's to kind of go back and refresh your memory of like, okay, I'm looking at the Associate of Science. How the heck do I decide what to take? So there's going to be a whole video refreshing your memory on that, which will be at this page. There's going to be another video here under SE4 registration, showing you how to plan and actually officially register in the service center. But in the meantime, there's some step-by-step directions listed here. And one place that is already updated are these scheduling documents and links where all of the degree worksheets are here. Well, the 3 transfer degrees or the art, science, gen ed, those are all listed here. There's a link in the presentation or on the homework that you'll be doing that leads you to the associate degree, the applied degrees, the list of degrees that SE4 offers. So if you're not doing arts or science and you're doing an applied degree, you would access those at the link. Criminal justice generalist is an example. I do want to point out this link. This list of programs lists everything. So Associate of Arts, Associate of Science, these other things end in AAS. And what that means is they are applied arts and science degrees. So you want to be looking for those versus these things that say SS. These are skill sets. So this is not an actual degree. This is almost kind of like just a separate designation that you can have on your transcript that says criminal justice skill set. It'd just be added onto there. So you might get your Associate of Arts, and within it, you do these classes. So you have the Associate of Arts and the CJ skill set. It's a good option for those that are doing kind of the general transfer degree, but do want more of a background in something like this that's offered. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know. But the rest of you, if you're doing an applied degree, you need to be looking for the AAS version. So mechatronics is a good example. I was just meeting with a student today about the mechatronics degree. So as we have kind of explained this before, so I'll keep it fairly brief. If you're doing an applied degree, these are great because they're giving you very good hands-on instruction. These classes are very relevant to what you would be doing for a career. 2-year associate degrees and applied degrees are great for you get your degree done and you can start right into the workforce in this industry. You have great training. The pros are great. There are some cons in that these do not transfer very well. So if you think you want to go on to get a bachelor's degree, but you are drawn to one of these applied degrees, you need to talk to me and I can tell you what it is you should be doing instead. A common mistake I would say that I've seen people make is they want to be an engineer and they see engineering technology and think that's what these are. These are different. These are more of the hands-on, the technology side, doing the work, programming machines, doing electronic stuff, welding, engineering, graphics, and CAD sometimes seems like that'd be a great path to be an engineer later on. And there are classes there that would be helpful, but you would basically just be a drafter. You wouldn't be doing the design of something by getting a degree in this. So if you want to be the big time engineer making a ton of money, you probably need a bachelor's degree. But these are all great programs that you can make really good money with just the associate degree. And that's not just the associate degree. That's a great field to be in. And most of these are that way. If you are thinking about going into business and you're going to transfer onto a 4-year school, you would be doing the associate in business transfer. This would help you basically finish the accounting and econ that a 4-year school would require. There's a ton of room for electives here, so you would want to pair this with the MTA. But there's a lot more information that's going to be at that website or this web page that has the planning refresher. The math pathway chart is listed here. So that's the thing. This thing that shows you basically what your final class is. It tells you what you can take before that. The program of study template, I'm actually going to change it and make it this version. This version is nice because it's a Word doc that you can actually just like type in what you've taken and kind of plan out what you have left, right? So where you're actually putting in your class and the number of credits, so you can start tallying that up. So you can make sure that in the end of your 13th year, you're going to get to that 60, 62, 63. I don't know if you noticed on the mechatronics that requires 63 degrees. So you have to really make sure you know what your degree requires and plan it out for the rest of your time. The Michigan transfer agreement is linked there. as well as the course number changes. So all of these things that we looked at, and then I will also be including, so these are the course number changes, Michigan transfer agreement, all of these things are there on the page, but then I'll be sending it to you as well. So those are all the tools you need to make sure you're planning well. Sorry, I can't get back to my presentation. So I just showed you all of that, all those links that again we'll be including. Again, I've pointed out prerequisite courses, use that program of study, this thing to really make sure you're planning out everything well, and make sure that you can fit everything in your 13th year. Prerequisites are important to pay attention to, and especially grade wise, there are a few classes. This is a good example, the Bio 271 and Bio 272. Those are the anatomy and physiology classes, and you would have to get a C or better in the first one before you can take the next one. Some of the chemistry classes and some of the physics classes are also that way. I think those are kind of it. Most of the other ones, you can scrape out a D- and then move on to the next class. But that's something you want to pay attention to on the prerequisites when you're doing your searching. So you can plan it out. The other thing is not to let yourself be that student that finds out later, I could have taken all these classes and they would have transferred for my bachelor's degree. So often there are students that only just figure out what they want to do in their 13th year. And I've been meeting with students that are really upset of like, gosh, I wish I had decided this earlier. And I get it. Like you find out, oh, I could have taken all this bio and chem or whatever it is you're thinking about going into. Sure, I get that. But look at it as a positive that you figured it out by basically your sophomore year of college, and you're only really a freshman in college. You've really accelerated the time by doing the middle college, which is a great thing because you're getting all of this for free, right? But the downside of it is that it forces you to make these decisions a little bit earlier, and you're taking these basics. If all you do is finish the Michigan transfer agreement and finish an associate degree, that's awesome. That's a great accomplishment to make 1 year out of high school. So don't kick yourself if you haven't decided this stuff yet. But if you have decided this stuff, that's where you really, really can take advantage of taking classes at SE4 that will transfer for your bachelor's degree, and it can put you potentially even further ahead on things. So what you would need to know is, what do you want to do for a career? What level of education is required? If it's more, like if you need a bachelor's degree or higher, what bachelor's degree should you be getting? Like what should you be majoring in at a 4-year school? And then some ideas about what colleges you might want to go to. And you don't have to have this figured out and set in stone to start looking at the options and seeing what you can take at SE4 that will transfer there. Oftentimes I've had students come in and say, this is what I think I want to do. Don't really know where I want to go. We can look up some transfer guides and transfer information and get a list of classes together that you could start on that list and see if you like it or not. That could be maybe how you figure out if that is the career you want to pursue or not. Because if you start taking classes that are leading to that bachelor's degree and you don't like them, then that's your sign that you should probably choose something else. That is a sign I ignored when I went into business, but that's why I'm very passionate about this, because I want to try to help you guys avoid the mistakes that I've made. So courses that will transfer, this, how to find out what will transfer is there's a ton of research, or there's a ton of resources out on the internet. So you can look on your own at the college website. I highly recommend doing that. If you're thinking about going to Michigan State and majoring in supply chain management, like I did, then Google MSU supply chain management, and it's going to bring you to those pages. Start poking around and seeing what's out there. See if you can find the list of classes that are required. Sometimes that's like a treasure hunt on a website. Every college organizes their sites differently, organizes their course catalogs differently. So sometimes it's a hard thing to find. So if you're having trouble, let me know. You can Google transfer guides and see if those are available. Not every school has them, but it's something that we can piece together. Meet with one of us, meet with an SE4 advisor. And like I said, let's triple check it by reaching out to advisors at the 4-year schools and seeing what's available. meeting the MTA requirements. Like I said, I pointed this out, but if this is all you do at a community college, this is a lot. The colleges in Michigan have said, if you do the MTA, which you will do by completing the arts or science degree, they will consider your general education stuff to be done. So I know I've talked about this before, but every school makes everyone still do a little bit of everything your first couple of years when you transfer to a four-year school or when you go to a four-year school. So freshmen and sophomores at Michigan are still doing the basics, right? The general education requirements. So that's what you're doing here at SE4. And that's the goal of the Michigan Transfer Agreement, is that you won't have to do extra stuff when you get there if there's something that's not offered here or something. Like a lot of schools have maybe a language requirement or like a cultural course requirement, that we just don't have all those options, but we have things that are pretty close that will help you get that well-rounded education, basically. We've looked at the scheduling docs, and I've already gone through the MTA. This whole final year math requirement. So I touched on this earlier. Every year, we've talked about this from the start. When we first met you, we talked about this pretty briefly at your enrollment meeting or your first interview. And we've talked about it pretty much every success session that we talk about registration. But every year I have somebody completely surprised by this and say, well, I already completed my 4 credits. I'm in pre-calc right now. And that is wonderful and perfect. That's what you were supposed to do. Finish your 4 credits by the end of senior year. Great job. But you still need something in your 13th year for your final year math requirement. So the state of Michigan requires students to take 4 credits of math. And then they have this extra wording in there that says, including a math related experience in their final year of high school. Your final year is your 13th year. Like I've suggested, you can just finish your SE4 math requirement. I always recommend you schedule and do that right away in the fall, just in case anything should happen. Sometimes life happens and you end up maybe not finishing winter semester, or you end up having a tough class in the fall and it doesn't go well and you have to retake it in winter semester. It gives you the wiggle room to do that. If you have questions about if other things can work, let me know. But probably if you've already finished your math requirement for your degree and you're just looking for something to check this box, I would take that math for everyday life if it were me, because I think that's going to be actually really relevant to your life, as I say, everyday life. So just a summary, know what you need for your prerequisites. Make sure you are getting to your 60 or 62, or there's even some of the applied degrees that require 63 up to even 66 credits I've seen. Don't come up short. You have to know your required classes, but you have to make sure you're hitting the total credits too. So including electives. Steer clear of online courses, especially as you're going into this 13th year. You're starting to get into those higher level classes and they're just going to be more difficult online. Steer clear of stacking too much on one day or 2 days or that combo. Now that you're in your 13th year and you don't have high school, I've seen this so many times where people are scheduling and they're like, well, I don't have high school. I'm going to do all of my classes on Tuesday and Thursday, and I'm going to be here all day from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And then I'm not even here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. How awesome is that? And they schedule themselves overloaded with work hours. They don't schedule in study time or homework time, and they just take on too much, right? And that's a very, very, very long day to be at school for 10, 12 hours. So stretch it out, do some stuff in person, stretch it out over the 4 days. It's very normal to go to school Monday through Thursday in college. Be thankful you don't have your Fridays, right? That's the joy. Those are the things that us old people miss about the college days, is having those 3-day weekends every week. But be careful about not leaving enough time for school or working too many hours. I know everybody's, working for a goal and needs money, but there is kind of a point where you're taking on too much at work and not being able to get everything done. So just a review, registration opens April 17th, which is Sunday night at midnight. Sections will be viewable the week before, the week of Monday, April 10th. And you don't need to register for everything, but the sooner the better for all. That doesn't even make sense the way I worded that, but basically, if you're not sure what you want to do, get yourself a schedule. You can always adjust things later, but at least you have a backup plan that works for you. So the service center refresher, we can look at just kind of, actually, this is something that I am going to skip because I'm going to be making a video about this. So if you need a refresher on how to navigate the service center, which is quite common, you guys are only in there once a semester, really. There will be a video on the website that will have that, and we'll link you to all of those. But yeah, that's where you can create your schedule, have it all ready to go, so that when registration opens, you're ready just to hit register and be done. There is homework for the success session. This slide is misleading. It makes you think we're almost done, but I actually have a whole other chunk of stuff to talk about. We have about probably 15 minutes worth of stuff, so bear with me. But this is basically this plan, this degree plan thing is meant to help you. This is probably not going to connect. It's been not for some reason. Yeah. So that will connect better for you. That shortcut, I will put it in the chat. But this is the Google form that we need you to fill out. And this is just, again, the same stuff we ask you every time we see you is, what are you thinking about doing for a career? How are you doing on the progress towards your degree? That's basically what this is walking you through. I want you to have this done by April 14th so that you have thought about these things and you are ready to register on April 17th. So do that. Those of you that are watching this video as the homework, this is definitely required. This is how you're going to prove that you watched this video and did the homework. Okay. So, but everyone, even though you're here currently, you still have to do this Google form. Every single person has to do this. Okay, so that's that. The other side of it is prepping for life after middle college. So we're going into the final year. Hold, please, I need a drink of water. Going into the final year, and so you're starting to think about what's next after Blue Water Middle College. And college applications are next, basically. That'll start next summer. Basically late summer, early fall is when you're going to start doing the actual applications. For right now, there's some things that you can do to get ready for that, but those don't even really open usually until August 1st. And even the earliest application are not due until probably like Halloween, basically. So if you're looking for an early decision or early admission, Michigan, the hardest one, that first application deadline is October 31st. So what I recommend is you start getting stuff ready and be ready to basically complete them in October. So I'm going to show you another sheet that we'll be giving you. And if you want hard copies of any of these worksheets, you can pop in. I made a ton of copies for the in-person success session. So I've got a ton of stuff. I can give you a whole packet of this stuff. But this checklist, read through this. I'm not going to read it to you, but it really lays out everything you will do to apply for a four-year school, send your transcripts, write your essays, send your recommendation letters, do the FAFSA. That lays out when you do everything, basically. So the main thing is this summer, I know sometimes people are eager of like, what can I do? I need to get started. I'm behind. I've had people come in August freaking out that they're behind, and you are not. So this summer, if you can just get it narrowed down what colleges you want to apply to, that's wonderful. Include some safe schools that you are pretty sure you'll get into, and then maybe one or two dream schools. I usually say like one or two, like wish list, absolute dream, 2 to 3 middle range, like you'll probably get in, you'll probably get decent scholarships, and then at least one that it's like, I know for sure I'm going to get in. So if you need help with that, we're going to talk a lot more about this. We have a success session right away when the new year starts. Like literally it'll still be August when we have that session. And I'll show you some charts of like admission scores, kind of some general targets to hit. Determine the application deadline. So that's where most are due. Like early application stuff is either Halloween or November 1st. Most regular admissions are sometime in the new year between January and March. And then some schools have rolling admissions. So there are schools right now that you can apply to that will accept you for next year. Or like this time next year, you can be applying for things, and you can apply even through the summer for some schools. But earlier is better so that you can get the most scholarship money available and get your answer sooner. If you can visit some college campuses over the summer, that would be wonderful. I am still working on getting some tours scheduled. It's gotten pushed to the side right now because it's so busy, but I really want to get something, at least maybe 1 or 2 on the calendar for April, even maybe into May. Like that might be something that we do in May after you guys are done with the school year here, but still finishing up your high school year. So I'm going to get those out as soon as I can have some information, but you can also do that on your own. Go visit friends, go on tour, go have your parents take you. There are a lot of the high schools offer tours, take those that you can. Blue Water College Access Network, I think, does do some tours. So follow them on social media and the newsletter. You can also start studying for the SAT and retake that. If you are thinking about retaking the SAT, you could do it right at the end of this school year in June while everything is still fresh in your head, or you could do an early one next year, like in August, September, October-ish, so that you get your score back in time for your applications. But I do recommend retaking that. If you didn't get a 1600, it's worth retaking it. And I haven't heard of anybody in St. Clair County that did. So I know none of you did. But yeah, there's always room for improvement on your scores, and it can impact your scholarship stuff. And then you can start thinking about college application essays. I'm going to send you a thing from Common App, which is Common Application. That's one of the bigger, Common App is used by a lot of schools where you can only apply to them through Common App. Like U of M only accepts applications through Common App. Other schools like Western or Michigan State use Common App, so you can apply that way, or you can apply directly on their website. But if you have at least one school that you're applying to that requires Common App, you might as well apply to more. They'll still have the application fees, which we'll talk about a little bit more next year. But basically, you're going to start working on those August, September. And then we'll have the success session where you'll get a lot more detail about it. And then October is college application month in the state of Michigan. And a lot of the schools will waive their application fees. So that's where, if you can shoot to have everything ready by then, get in there, start the application, you can work on it, save it, come back to it later, get everything ready so that on that first week of October, you can start submitting things and potentially not have to pay application fees. Also in October, the FAFSA opens. So kind of the priority is early fall. You're doing your college application stuff. You make it final in October, and then you shift focus and you do your FAFSA, which is your financial aid. So the free application for federal student aid is what that stands for, FAFSA. So again, there's going to be a lot more information about this coming in the new year, the new school year. But this is just kind of a checklist to get you started and give you some ideas on what you can do in the next few months. How did I really lose my place this far? Sorry. Okay, so we were here. So again, that starts late summer, early fall, but there's things you can do now. Visit school websites too. They all have virtual tours. That's one good silver lining thing that came out of these crazy years, is that you can meet with advisors on Zoom or online in ways like Zoom, or you can look at virtual tours on their websites. You can explore their programs and make sure they have what you want. Visit the school if possible. You can just Google MSU tours and it will show you how you schedule your own private tour for you and your parents and somebody there at the school. There's all these search tools if you're not sure where you want to go. And these would be good things to look and see, kind of if you're thinking about a certain field, what colleges offer, what you want to do. Sorry, I'm going backwards. Again, we'll have that success session very early next year to explain it all in a lot more detail. But this timeline gives you a little bit of a head start about what you can start thinking about. If you want to get started on applications before we meet you again in August, That's okay. But just keep in mind, the two big things is that you are applying as a freshman, even though that goes against what makes sense, because you're going to have all this college credit. You might think, well, I would be a transfer student, but you would not be. So Michigan colleges are very familiar with middle colleges. There's hundreds across the state, and they have come to the conclusion that they want middle college students to apply as freshmen. They consider you a freshman as long as you have not taken college classes after your high school graduation. And even though you're going to go to your graduation ceremony this spring at your high school, you're not technically graduating until the end of your 13th year. And so you will graduate next May, and your high school is Blue Water Middle College Academy. So we will be the ones giving you your transcript. Okay, so every year we have people make these mistakes. They're usually easily fixable. Usually an admissions office will figure out like, something's not right here, but sometimes this can create some paperwork nightmare for the admissions office. And sometimes it creates a nightmare for you of maybe having to restart your whole application, or having to basically restart kind of the whole process. So apply as a freshman, or sometimes they call it first time college student. So they'll refer to it as one of those things. When you are in the application process, they consider you a freshman. And then once you are admitted and decide that that's where you're going to go, and you pay your deposit and you send your final transcript after you finish your 13th year, then they see, whoa, you have 65 credits. You're actually a junior now. So that does change your status. And that would be something we'll talk again in a lot more detail about next year. If you have retaken the SAT, let us know and send the scores, and we can update your transcript with your scores, so that when you send your transcripts during applications season next year, your scores are on there and you don't have to send them separately. It's a little bit helpful for paperwork. 10, 20, 70 points can make a big difference into getting into the college that you want and being considered for automatic scholarship money. So I know we've talked about that when we talked about the SAT. So again, my main joke is, unless you got a perfect 1600, you should retake the SAT. You've taken another whole year of English and math and probably science. You've experienced a lot more. That alone would help you do better. And then you've already seen the test once, so you have that familiarity with it. And then if you can add a little bit more practice, almost certainly scores go up. Statistically, they say the scores go up like on average 200 points with like 6 hours of practice. So that's nothing. That's not much at all. You would sign up to retake it at collegeboard.org, or you can just Google SAT test dates and you can see all the test dates and click to find out how and where and when you would take it. If you are, there are fee waivers available if you have financial need, and you might be more eligible for it than you think you are. It's not just being eligible for like free and reduced lunch or things like that. There's a few more other eligibility. So if you have questions about that, let us know and we can help you figure out if you are eligible, and then it would be actually free. So that would be even better and even more reason that you should retake it. You should definitely practice again before you retake it. Those sites are still there and waiting for you to utilize them. The SAT prep and practice has currently, that video disappeared, but I will be recreating that and putting it on that website very soon. And yeah, so if you have questions, let me know. I can also send you basically the success session from this year where I've just talked about those resources and kind of showed people how to navigate it. So I could send you that if you were interested and just wanted a refresher. So if you have questions on anything, any of this stuff, let us know. I'm the person to kind of talk to when it's degree planning, transfer planning. So I'm kind of the one to reach out to, but if you have other questions about really anything, you can also reach out to the others in the office. But if it's about your degree or about transfer stuff, I'm the person to ask. So that is my email there. Good luck in the next few weeks. You're doing a lot over the next weeks and months and finishing up your 12th grade year. So there's a lot going on, but take the time to plan well for next year so that you can set yourself up for an easier, kinder 13th year instead of overwhelming or disappointing, depending on whether you plan well or not. So again, here's a slide with the with the homework. Let me just click out of here so I can put this, goodness gracious. So I can put this in the chat. But I will also be sending this link in the email that I send tomorrow. Hopefully people have been asking some questions. I see it looks like one has been going on. I don't know why that sends it as a picture, but the link is there in the chat too. So you can jump right to that right now. If you want to fill that out, please do it by April 14th. Again, let us know if you have questions. I'm going to stop the recording